The following podcast may not be for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
You've probably all heard about the spiritual practice of psychic manifestation, focusing your thoughts like a laser beam to attract success, love, or healing. But there's another psychic ability that few dare to whisper about: thoughtography. This isn't about manifesting a new car or a better job. This is about burning your thoughts directly into physical reality, scorching your mental images onto surfaces through sheer psychic force. In the dark corners of paranormal history lurks the strange story of Ted Serios, a Chicago bellhop whose claimed abilities sent shivers through the scientific community of the 1960s. Serios didn't claim to speak with the dead, predict the future, or manifest wealth. He claimed to possess something far more intriguing: the power to burn images directly from his mind onto Polaroid film. Armed with nothing but a mysterious black tube he called his gizmo and an alleged psychic mind, Serios captured the attention of respected psychiatrist Dr. Jewel Eisenbud, who would spend years documenting what he believed to be genuine thoughtography. In countless sessions, images would materialize on blank Polaroid film: buildings, cars, landscapes, all supposedly projected from the depths of Serios' consciousness. Join me as I walk through the unexplained realms of thoughtography and learn about Ted Serios, the man who took pictures with his mind. In the shadows of early 20th century academia lurked Tomokichi Fukari, a man whose obsession with the unseen world ultimately would destroy his career. As an associate professor at Tokyo Imperial University, he dared to venture where his colleagues feared to tread, into the murky waters of clairvoyance and thoughtography. While others chased conventional psychology, Fukari hunted ghosts in the machine, convinced that human consciousness could imprint on photographic plates without a camera. His experiments with psychics ended in scrutiny, forcing him from his prestigious position in 1913. But like the spirits he sought to capture, Fukari refused to fade away. He continued his research in the darkness, spending decades trying to prove that the human mind could imprint itself. What if we could take our minds, images, and push them out of our subconscious and into the physical world? According to Ted Serios, he possessed this ability, thoughtography. There isn't much known about Ted Serios' early life, other than he was born in Kansas City in 1918 and served in the U.S. Army in Vietnam. After the service, he was disabled and struggled, bouts of heavy drinking and increasingly erratic behavior. Ted Serios' life began to unravel. The breaking point came when authorities committed him to Chicago State Hospital, where doctors diagnosed him with schizophrenia. He moved forward and became immersed in the service industry, becoming a Chicago bellhop with sticky fingers and a taste for trouble. In the gleaming Conrad Hilton Hotel of the 1960s, he spent his days pocketing cash from the register and borrowing the guests' cars for joyrides through the windy city's streets. Little did anyone know this petty thief would soon captivate the nation's imagination with something far more extraordinary than Grand Theft Auto. In the shadows of the Conrad Hilton's dimly lit corridors, he crossed paths with George Johannes, a man whose innocent job title masked a far sinister obsession. Johannes dabbled in the art of hypnosis, but not the parlor trick variety that made people cluck like chickens. He sought something more unsettling: the ability to send people's consciousness adrift into the unknown. particularly traveling clairvoyance, which is much like remote viewing, but it occurs while the subject is under hypnosis. Like puppet strings attached to the human mind, he'd guide his subjects through an ethereal void, commanding them to peer into places that they were never meant to see. It was remote viewing's twisted cousin, performed on the unwitting souls who caught his attention. As the two co-workers began to learn more about each other, Ted revealed to George that he could project images from his mind onto paper. This piqued George's interest in Serios. The two planned to use Serios' ability to find hidden treasure located in the sea. Armed with a camera given to him by George, Ted went home and began working diligently to transfer images from his mind onto the film. The film was sent out to be developed and returned with a few images. Ted was in disbelief. He chose to purchase his own camera to be sure, and it also came back with impossible images. Ted assumed he must be sleepwalking and capturing these images, so he began locking himself in his room at night. But the developed film still would produce images. Ted ditched traditional film for something more immediate, a Polaroid camera. Day after day, he'd stand there waiting for his mental visions to materialize in real time. Occasionally, an image would appear, but he'd ultimately never find the sunken treasure. The instant photos became his obsession, blank squares transforming into physical proof of what lurked inside his mind. Desperate for stronger results, Ted sought out a hypnotherapist. But fate has a way of orchestrating the strangest moments. During his session, an unexpected phone call forced the therapist to step away, asking Ted to wait in the reception area. He raised his Polaroid to a bare wall, the receptionist's eyes widening as she watched him snap photo after photo of the bare wall. What developed before their eyes defied explanation. 6 images emerged from what should have been blank shots of white plaster walls. But scenes from India materialized like ghosts on the Polaroid film. The receptionist's skepticism crumbled as she watched impossible images bloom in Ted's trembling hands. Each photo a window into a place thousands of miles away. When the therapist returned, he found himself facing evidence that the boundary between the mind and reality was far more fragile than his years of training had led him to believe. The hypnotherapist's suggestion would prove fateful, turning the camera's eye inward, making Ted both observer and subject of his own inexplicable gift. Each time he pointed the Polaroid at his face, it was like opening a door that shouldn't exist, capturing something that lurked beneath his ordinary reflection. But gifts like these are fickle. The deeper Ted ventured into hypnosis, the more his strange abilities slipped away, like water cupped through hands. The trance state that should have heightened his power instead smothered it, leaving him with nothing but blank photos and mounting frustration. Only in those raw conscious moments, fully awake and aware, would the impossible images bleed through onto the Polaroid film. His ability increased. Ted felt he needed to find a scientist to assist in documenting this strange ability. The owner and editor of Fate magazine shared Ted's unusual story with Dr. Jules Eisenbud, a psychiatrist originally from New York, but based in Denver. The two met in a Chicago hotel for drinks. The Chicago hotel bar became the stage for Ted's unraveling. Double scotches disappeared one after another, followed by shots, before attempting to demonstrate his ability. But the photos came out wrong, what Ted called blackies, sheets of pure darkness as if the light itself refused to touch the film. Each failed attempt pushed him further into agitation, his pulse hammering against his throat like a trapped thing trying to escape. His composure cracked under the weight of his own expectations, until finally he sat, cross-legged. The Polaroid shook in its white-knuckled grip as he turned it towards his face. a mirror to capture whatever darkness was rising within him. After each failed attempt, desperation crept in until Ted finally mentioned his gizmo. He described the simple, hollow plastic tube, a crude tool he claimed could help channel his ability by placing it over the camera's lens. Dr. Eisenbud's professional curiosity sparked at this revelation, his eyes narrowing as he held out his hand, silently demanding to inspect this mysterious aid. The moment felt heavy with unspoken questions. Was this the crutch that explained everything, or just another layer in Ted's increasingly complex mystery? For 2 grueling hours, they watched failure after failure develop in Ted's hands. Dr. Eisenbud's envelope of target pictures, brought with such academic optimism, remained untouched, a testament to the evening's disappointments. Just as the doctor put the target pictures away, something happened. Finally emerged an image, not the sharp, clear proof they'd been hunting for, but something else. A blurry structure. It wasn't until later that the blurry image was identified. It was the Chicago Water Tower, its distinctive silhouette barely contained within the frame's boundaries. The timing was almost cruel. Success arrived precisely when they'd stopped looking for it. Ted produced another image during this meeting, but Dr. Eisenbud halted the session as Ted's blood pressure was extremely high, though Ted claimed he knew he was ready when his heart began to pound. Dr. Eisenbud invited Ted to Denver so they could further study his ability with his colleagues. In Denver's clinical confines, Ted's gift revealed its darker nature. Dr. Eisenbud and his colleagues watched as a pattern emerged, one that echoed through the halls of paranormal research like a familiar shadow. The key to Ted's power wasn't concentration or meditation, but raw, unfiltered emotion. Anger specifically acted like a match to gasoline, igniting whatever mysterious force allowed him to burn impossible images onto Polaroid film. The discovery linked Ted to a broader, more unsettling truth about psychokinetic phenomena. These abilities fed on turbulence, drawing power from the storm of human emotion rather than the calm. It was the darkness within that opened doors to the impossible, not peace or tranquility. Serios, often in various states of intoxication, produced image after image under what Eisenbud considered foolproof conditions. During one session, he was unable to produce, but became extremely intoxicated and belligerent. The doctor, refusing to allow him any more alcohol, incited rage in Ted. Grabbing the camera to prove his ability, produced a blurry image of a double-decker bus. But here's where our story takes a darker turn. Professional magicians and skeptics were convinced it was all a trick. The famous magician James Randi claimed the gizmo could easily conceal a small lens or optical device. Critics pointed out that Serios would only perform when holding this mysterious tube, and many of his successes came after hours of failed attempts, when observers might be tired or less vigilant. What makes this story so fascinating isn't just the phenomena itself, it's the questions it raises about the nature of consciousness, reality, and human perception. If Serios was a fraud, how did he fool so many scientists and researchers for so long? And if he was genuine, why couldn't he produce results consistently under stricter conditions? Dr. Eisenbud died in 1999, taking many of his conclusions about Serios to the grave. Serios himself faded into obscurity and died in 2006, leaving behind a legacy of uncertainty and wonder. The photographs still exist, hundreds of them stored in university archives, continuing to puzzle anyone who studies them. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of the Ted Serios case is that we may never know the truth. Like so many mysteries in the paranormal world, it sits in that uncomfortable gray area. between the possible and the impossible, between fraud and phenomenon. I guess we'll just leave this to the unexplained realms. And so ends our journey into the darkest corners of paranormal photography. Ted Serios, the hard-drinking Chicago bellhop who claimed he could burn images from his mind onto film, remains an enigma that haunts the halls of psychic research. In the 1960s, during countless nights of experimentation with Dr. Jewel Eisenbud, Serios produced hundreds of inexplicable photographs. Some clear, others distorted like fever dreams. Was he a fraud with a clever sleight of hand? Or did this troubled man truly possess the ability to bridge the gap between thought and reality? The answers died with him, but his thoughtographies live on, ghostly artifacts of a time when science dared to probe the boundaries of human consciousness. I hope you'll join me again soon. Until then, keep watching the shadows, for sometimes the most terrifying truths are the ones we capture when we think no one's looking.